Andrew Henriques has recently blessed the church, airing out the dirty laundry of the church again. Now, in his video that we're going to examine, we are going to see his topic, and his topic was about airing the church's dirty laundry. Is it okay to do? And in this clip, he will seek to justify his position using the spirit of prophecy and the Bible. Now, we're going to critically evaluate his statements, but before I do, I want to remind you that if you like this evaluation, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it, and let me know what you think about this whole assessment. Do you think Andrew Henriques is right? What do you think the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy have to say about this? Take a look at this assessment and let's go through this together. Let's take a critical evaluation and answer the question, is it right to air the church's dirty laundry all over the internet and YouTube? Let's answer this question now.
The great question is, my friends, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? And friends, when we cover such things, people say, Pastor Henriques, don't air the dirty laundry of the SDA church. You can take a look at that, my friends. That's what they say. Yes, Dr. Mocker, Brother Scoffer, and Miss Cynic, that's what they say. I have news for you. The General Conference leaders recently stated in their published report that it is the apostate leaders who are guilty of the same charge they level against yours truly. They're the ones who are airing the dirty laundry of the SDA church. Yes, my friends, there it is. From top, the SDA church has published clear statements regarding human sexuality, homosexuality, and transgenderism. But of course, they're telling you that we have begun to support and promote such sins. Last sentence, red words. Although these activities have been locally sponsored through social media, by the way, blue words for context, they provide, these local churches provide support for those living alternative human sexuality lifestyles that are inconsistent with our biblical understanding of this issue, and publish voted statements of the SDA church. Although these activities have been locally sponsored through social media, they have been announced far and wide, creating confusion.
So there you go. We've heard the man, but I want you to notice here. We're going to assess this point of his. Now, he's saying that the leadership, the Seventh-day Adventist church leadership, are publishing dirty laundry like he is. And so how can they condemn him? And basically that's his reasoning, right? How can this church condemn him of airing dirty laundry when they're doing the same thing? Well, I want you to take a critical look at what he's pulling up here. Notice that this article, this statement, comes from the General Conference. It comes from the Adventist News Network. Now, let me tell you, is that a general population thing, or is that a specific thing to a specific target group that mostly only that target group would know of? That would be yes. Adventist News Network, the target population is Seventh-day Adventist, not to the general world, not to the people at large. This is for Adventists, and mostly only Adventists would know about this channel. And same thing with this General Conference statement, which you'd find online. Well, only Adventists would really know how to get down and find this statement. So again, is this publishing the church's dirty laundry abroad all over YouTube, all over the internet spectrum for everyone to see? Does that fall under that? Well, no, it doesn't. So let's keep looking here. Let's keep listening to what he has to say.
Creating confusion. That's it. This is from the General Conference leaders. While it's in the local churches, they're using social media to support and promote sodomy. To who today is airing the dirty laundry of the SDA church? So my friend, what is my point right now? Since yours truly is not doing what they accuse me of, what is one of my goals? What is one of my objectives and missions, my friends? It is to leave on record a public remonstration against public apostasies, a public protest 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 20 says, public sins must be rebuked publicly so that others will fear and learn and not make the same mistakes, and so that we can win some for.
So I just want to stop right here. He uses 1 Timothy, okay? And we're going to look at this right after he finishes. After we finish this statement of his, we're going to look at that Bible text and get down to the truth of that Bible text. And we got to look at the context. We got to look at some deep detail here, which he is missing. So let's keep listening.
Christ, we are told, my friends, watch. It was necessary that this sin should be punished as a testimony to surrounding nations of God's displeasure against idolatry. That's it, my friends. And what is the context? It's Exodus chapter 32, when they bow down and worship the golden calf and all the sins and abominations that went along with calf worship. I'm going to address calf worship because what has been transpired at the Southwest Region Conference Camp meeting is actually calf worship, bullock worship, devil worship. Watch this. Second sentence, Moses was sent by God to leave on record a solemn and public protest against their crime. Yes, my friends. Why? Their enemies might throw back on Israel the charge the people claimed to believe in Jehovah, made a calf and worshipped it in Horeb, and God did nothing. Do you see it now? And nobody said nothing. There has to be a public rebuke, a public calling people to Bible repentance, Bible revival, and Bible reformation, so that we may win those who are presently in apostasy, calling them back to God's fold before it's too late, and those in Babylon who are looking for a local congregation where truth is being elevated. Yes, that they can find one and not go to those fallen, apostate, abominable local SDA churches that are presently inviting, supporting, and promoting the prophets of Baal, the prophets of the Gove, the prophets of sodomy, the prophets of devil worship. All right, you can read the rest of that, brothers and sisters.
All right, so we have heard the man. We've heard Andrew speak, and I want to just go into the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. First of all, in that last point that we've left off at, he shares about Moses' experience and how, well, Moses, he had to do this public remonstration. That way that the nations around would fear, and they would know that what the Hebrews did was wrong at the time. Now, that was for then. My big question is, does Ellen White and does the Bible give any further counsel with regards to the church today? Is there any sort of guidelines? Is there any sort of safety net for doing this type of work, for publicly remonstrating others? This is what I'm looking at here. He's using this Moses example to bolster his cause and to bolster what he is doing, as well as to bolster his own movement to gain support for himself. But my big question is he misapplying this example, and is he misapplying 1 Timothy? This is what we're going to look at. And we're also going to look at the spirit of prophecy. Let's take a look. Let's delve deep into this. He uses 1 Timothy chapter 5. In it says, against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses, them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear. Now, in the context, he is saying that all is the public. Okay? But I want you to see the context. Against an elder, that's to the church, right? But before 2 or 3 witnesses, that's witnesses for the church issue. Then that sin rebuke before all. Who is all? Is all the public, or is all the church people involved? The elder and the witnesses. Well, you know what? Don't take my interpretation for it. Let's go to the Seventh-day Adventist Bible commentary and see what it has to say on this. Verse 20, them that sin, that is the elders. So the elders in this case were the ones that had sinned. Paul will excuse and protect sin in no man. Amen. I can agree to that, right? Rebuke, which means to convict, with the implication that the charge is true and that the evidence is clear. It is a serious moment when one church member accuses another of sin. Consequently, any charge should be thoroughly validated by reliable witnesses before it's made public. Just as 1 Timothy says, when the Bible urges Christians to rebuke, it is always in the sense to convict others. This can be done only when undeniable evidence is at hand. Now, look at the bold words. Such counsel forbids reckless accusations whereby the reputations of innocent people are damaged and their confidence in the brethren is weakened. We don't want to weaken the confidence in the brethren. When we do things publicly in such a manner as Andrew Henriques and others do, does that strengthen the confidence in our leadership or does it weaken it? It's a weakening influence. All. This is important. All. This could mean all the other elders, or it may refer to all the congregation. You see, it's the church context, not a public everybody context. What we could say, it's not for Hebrews and Gentiles, it's for the Hebrews. Or we could say it's for the church, not for the unconverted world to hear. Now, naturally, YouTube, I'm on YouTube and he's on YouTube, and what you realize is when you post things on YouTube, it can go to a wider audience, especially when you first start, because of the way the algorithm works. So what happens is that you publish material and different eyes, based on what they're searching and what they're watching, gravitate to whatever you post. So you can reach Adventists, you could reach Baptists, Catholics, you could reach, the common everyday man or woman. This is the type of thing we have to realize, is that YouTube is public everywhere. It's not to just one segment of people. And I have seen on his comments on his videos, there are people who say, oh, I'm not a Seventh-day Adventist, but I follow Andrew. What? If you're not a Seventh-day Adventist, you're following Andrew, where's Andrew pulling you into? Some vortex of black hole? No, if someone is listening and following to a preacher, they should join the preacher's movement. But the thing is, the person's not joining the movement, just following Andrew. So where is the person going? You see, I hope that when people listen to me, they get curious about the Adventist church and become convicted Seventh-day Adventists. That's my hope. And I hope that Seventh-day Adventists who do already watch me get real with their faith and stay on the straight and narrow with Jesus Christ. I want to be a revivalist, a reformer, and I want people to love the church and not think it's some gross apostate thing. Never. So we have to be careful. This is from the Adventist Bible Commentary. Now we want to go to Ellen G. White. Ellen G. White, she says, beware of those who arise with a great burden to denounce the church. There are whole ministries that are essentially based on denouncing the Seventh-day Adventist church. Beware, Ellen White says. When anyone is drawing apart from the organized body of commandment-keeping people, when he begins to weigh the church in his human scales and begins to pronounce judgment against them, then you may know that God is not leading him. He is on the wrong track. As we assess this criteria, which we just read from Ellen White, which side does Andrew fall on? In the beginning of his video, he says, which side are you on? As for me and my house, I believe the safe side is with God's remnant church, not with people who are condemning the church publicly for everybody to see and denouncing it all to get a following for themselves and justifying, well, if the local church is an apostasy based on my view, you better come to some place that's better. Look, people are broken. We're all sinners, fallen, short of the glory of God. Wherever you have people, you have problems. And wherever there's sinners, there's sin. And so if we're looking for a holier movement or holier than thou movement, well, sadly, there is sin, and people, wherever there's people, there's sin and there's problems. And so to say that there's one holy movement that's absolutely perfect, hard to find that in the world. So there are a people that have been cleaved out of this world through the three angels' messages, and they're following Jesus with all their heart. And though they fall several times, they get back up again. And so we got to be careful when we publish bad stuff about the church all over YouTube and the internet. It can do real damage. God is not leading him. He is on the wrong track when they're trying to draw apart from God's organized body, the conferences. We are, as a church, to be wide awake and to work for the erring among us as laborers together with God. We're not supposed to be drawing Adventists out of Adventist churches. We're supposed to be drawing people from the world into the Adventist churches. We are not to hurl the thunderbolts against the Church of Christ militant. We're not supposed to be attacking and denouncing the church, for Satan is doing all in this line he possibly can. And you who claim to be the remnant people of God had better not be found helping him. Helping who? The devil. By denouncing, accusing, condemning. The whole idea is seek to restore, not to tear down. And that's what my ministry is about here online. It's not to tear down. It's to build up and restore and to show the love of Christ so that people can be in love with Christ's bride and Christ himself, you know? Let every soul echo that prayer in mind in petitions and exhortations, that they all may be one as Christ is one with the Father. Unity. Call to unity. In the place of turning the weapons of warfare within our own ranks, let them be turned against the enemies of God and the truth. And so in my view, Andrew Henriques, he's got his weapons turned the wrong way. He's got his biblical guns pointed at the church, trying and doing damage publicly online, when the weapons of the warfare should be focused out there, out at the world and what the world's doing and what the Babylonian groups are doing, anti-typically Babylonian groups, you know what I'm saying? The fallen churches, the fallen religions out there. I tell you, my brethren, the Lord has an organized body through whom he will work. Where is God working? In the organized body. Now she says there may be more than a score of Judases among them. There may be a rash Peter who will, under circumstances of trial, deny his Lord. Do you see that? She's making the point. In the church, at Christ's time, you could say, in his group, well, who was there? You had Judas. You had rash characters there. You had people who were not converted fully yet. You had people who, they're following Jesus with their heart and stuff, but man, they had some serious character defects. And that is the way it is. No matter where you go, anywhere in the world, the church is not a perfect place. It's the church militant, not the church triumphant. And so you can only expect when you set your foot in any church that there will be problems. It just is what it is. There may be persons represented by John whom Jesus loved, but he may have a zeal that would destroy men's lives by calling down fire from heaven upon them to revenge an insult to Christ and the truth. And maybe that's him, a revengeful spirit. But the great teacher seeks to give lessons of instruction to correct these existing evils. He is doing the same today with his church. He's pointing out their dangers. He's presenting before them the Laodicean message. Now, the Laodicean message is from within the church. It's a message of restoration. And it's not a message that says, God is spewing the whole church out of his mouth. No, that's wrong. There are people who refuse the Laodicean message and they will be shaken out, but not the whole church gets shaken out. That's a wrong idea and a wrong concept. Okay? If the whole church was to be shaken out, there would be no more church anymore, and there would be some holier-than-thou movement, which will not exist. The church will go through unto the end. So we ought to be so careful with what we post online. And my passion and my perspective here in making this video, it's about damage control. It's about helping people to see truth versus error. And it's sort of apologetic in nature within our own ranks. I want people to see that love should prevail, that unity should prevail. That's my passion. This is my push here today. I don't want us to be critical and condemning and pointing the finger at each other and at the church. No, as much as I may rebuke and convict others, I may have, the proverbial finger pointed out there, but I've got three. If I've got one finger pointed out there, I've got two pointed back at me. I've got every finger pointed back at me because I need to change. I need to be like Christ. We all need to be like Christ. And yes, the church, enfeebled and defective as it may appear, is the church with whom God holds supreme regard. He holds supreme regard for his bride. And so this is my thing. If I'm looking at it in this whole husband-wife relationship, in this Christ bride scenario, I don't want to be a wife beater. One who loves his wife is as if he cherishes his own body. My point here is that let's not be spiritual beaters of the church. Let us cherish the bride. Let us help the bride become all that she can be. Let's not beat up on her. Let's cherish her. Let's love her. Because if you're an Adventist watching this, you've been called out from the world into the church. And I hope you haven't lost your first love. If you're married, I'm married. And if someone says something nasty and mean to my wife, I get defensive. I want to come up by her side and say, hey, yo, man, what's up? Why are you doing this? Why are you saying this to my wife? Why do you treat my wife this way? And so as a shepherd, as, I guess loosely as a protector of God's church, I want to come by the bride. I want to protect her when thunderbolts are hurled her way. I hope you've not lost your first love. I hope you're on fire and in love for the bride, and that you'll love her and cherish her and protect her. This is my big thing. And this is why I'm making this video today. And I want to mention too, remember in the clip that he shared, right? And he pulled up that article from the General Conference, from ANN, Adventist News Network. Notice that the way that article was written, that statement was couched, it protected names, it was general, because it was there to, as much as to admonish and give an official statement, it was also there to protect the parties involved so that they could be changed, that they could go through a process of healing and change for themselves. There's so much, when we publicize somebody's wrongs, sometimes they can go into like a shell. They can become withdrawn, and they can be so ashamed that it discourages them utterly, and change feels to them an impossibility at that point because of the burden of shame that they feel. We have a duty to protect people, even when they're in the wrong. And I don't mean placating sin, but what I mean is protecting them so that they can heal, that they can change, that they don't have to carry around this burden and condemnation. Because let me tell you, when you sin, you feel bad, you feel shame. But then Jesus comes in with that balm of Gilead, that healing forgiveness, and then you can be uplifted again. We have to be so careful about, how we approach remonstration and how we approach correcting people and correcting organizations. And so this is my take on Andrew Henriques' airing the dirty laundry clip. I hope when I prayed today that this whole study has been edifying and encouraging to you. Let us keep our problems within house, and let us allow the leaders to do due diligence in protecting, admonishing, and correcting our beloved bride, the church. May God bless and keep you until we study again.